All right, so we have Jacqueline Schadeck, CFP here. Before we even get too far in the video, I want everyone to know that I watch your content on Instagram, on YouTube, everywhere where you do interviews. I've probably watched it. So I'm truly honored that you would come on this channel and share your CFP experience with the audience. So thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me. That's good to hear. That's good to hear.
Trust me. I mean, if you've got like 100 views or 1,000 views, I'm probably 50% of those views because I just watch it. I just let it play in the background, especially when I was studying for the CFP exam. It would just be playing on loop in the background. You, Dominique, everybody who's a Black CFP on YouTube or social media in general. Trust me, I'm probably 25% of your views.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I know me and Dom appreciate more Black CFPs getting into the space, creating more content for us. This wasn't a thing when I got started, so I'm proud to be part of the wave.
Awesome. So here we go. The whole reason why I started this channel is that, this is inspiration and also kind of tips on how to get into the field of financial planning. And of course, jumping over the biggest hurdle, which is the CFP exam. But before we get to that part, I really would love for you to tell your story. And trust me, I've heard variations of your story because I've watched all your interviews, but I would love for you to share with the audience, your general background and what led you to becoming a certified financial planner.
Okay, so the long story short is
no. I don't want the long story short. I want the story. Just give me the story. No edits. I want the story. Yes, absolutely.
Well, I grew up on a 1,000-acre ranch in Northern California. A very different situation, one wherein we were land rich. We didn't really have any cash flow. My mom was a single mom with 3 kids. We didn't really have any cash flow. My family wasn't super business minded. So we didn't have a whole lot, but we lived on this land, right? And so what happened was my grandfather and his sister owned the property.
Okay.
And his sister, she went down and moved to the city, right? Kind of that typical story of one of the kids leaves the property.
Right.
She was the kid who left the property.
Okay.
And so she never lived there. And so she decided, she was like, wow, I have 50% control of this asset. If I can basically manipulate my brother into selling his home, she was like, I'm going to get a stupid bag.
Right. Okay.
So she convinces him to sign the paperwork, and I'm a child at this time. She convinces him to sign the paperwork in the midst of the battle for us to keep our home. My grandfather passes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And so the property is sold. My mother inherits about $1.4 million, and she wants to leave California because this is a fun fact that I learned through this process. I learned that, and hopefully we can get into this later, but I learned that if you develop your own land, so you go buy raw land and you build a house or a subdivision or whatever on it, you can create a street and you can name that street whatever you want to name it. And that's how so many people have these roads with family names on them.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
And I'm in the process of doing this now, but we'll talk about that later. But I was like, okay, cool. So we had a literal street. We had 2 streets and they were named after my family. Nice. So my mom was like, I'm telling you that because it should speak to the emotions of why my mom didn't want to stay there anymore. Because she was like, I don't want to stay here and look at this property that used to be mine that's no longer mine.
Got you.
And so she was like, let's move to Georgia, because she had a friend there in California whose family was from Georgia. And so we just came out and visited. My mom's like, cool, let's do it. So we move across the entire country. I'm a teenager at this stage. My mom inherits her money and she tries to talk to a financial advisor about this, right?
Which is the smart play. Most people would think I can do it on my own. At least in my experience, some people say I'll just take care of it myself. So she was obviously kind of ahead of the curve, saying I'm looking for assistance. I'm looking for guidance in managing this large amount of money that I've never had before.
Yeah, because mind you, it wasn't just her, it was also her sister. So her sister inherited $1.4 million as well. She also lost her money in the 4-year time frame.
Wow.
So my mom, she went to seek financial advice, right? And so this is for people who are either aspiring certified financial planners, or you're already a planner and you're just looking for some good content. So you'll understand what happened was what had happened was this financial advisor was like, okay, I heard one goal that you said, which was I want to save for my children to go to college. And so this financial advisor heard this and was like, cool, 529 plans, because their company sold 529 plans. And
Okay.
this is no knock to anybody who works in this kind of a space, but I'm explaining to you why this space doesn't work for me, why it doesn't resonate with me, why I will never support this space. Because when you are working for a particular company and they sell X, Y, and Z products and you're a financial advisor, you are positioned to sell products for that company.
Yes.
You are not positioned to work in your client's best interest. And so with that, because it gets super complicated from there, guys, but with that, that's what that financial advisor did. He said, yo, I heard this one thing, so I'm gonna start these 529 plans for her. That's what I'm gonna do, pretty much all of her money.
Whoa.
And because you got to think, like, she didn't know about any other options. Like, she's new to this. Like, my mom literally came from a job where she's making like $10 an hour,
Right,
trying to support 3 children.
Yeah, that's such a great point. And I'm with you 100% when it comes to the different, financial planner, financial advisor channels to go through and stuff like that. I'm so super fiduciary, no type of conflicts of interest. Like, it's ridiculous. Like, I'm with you 100%. And to hear that, to see that there are pressures when you go through that channel, there are pressures from the people up high. This is what you need to be selling. And for them to just look at one particular goal that your mother stated that she had and focus everything towards that. I mean, that's as if she had another 3.5 million over here for all the other things that she needs to do.
No, so mind you, like, basically took like almost $500,000, I believe, and put it into 529s, which wasn't cool, because you've got to think, because it was funny. I had this very situation with one of the first clients I ever worked with when I got my first financial planning job. And there was no plan for like all of the other things, right? Like, there's no plan for like, yo, I've never had this before. Like, I want to buy this, go here, there, and all these other places, right? Like, my mom, when she got her money, she was like, so I'm thinking about moving. Do you want to move with me either to like Georgia or New Zealand? I was like, 2 very different places.
Right.
Like, okay. So basically takes all of her money, puts it into 529 plans. You got to think, like, she's got to move. She's got to buy a house.
Right.
She's got to buy a car because she's never really had like a nice vehicle, like all of these things. And all of that adds up on top of she's supporting 3 kids and she's pregnant with another one on the way.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was a very interesting situation. I had a brother who was born when I was 15.
Okay.
So, and then she had another one when I was almost 20. Okay. But so this financial advisor does all of that, right? There is no cash flow planning. Like, that's a very basic, there should be some cash flow planning. There was none of that, right? Like, then also she bought some real estate. It was 2007.
Oh my God. Okay. I mean, and did she buy it like outright? Did she get a more like?
Yeah, she bought it outright.
Okay, and just didn't have the ability to have the liquidation to be able to just, I'm going to sit on this. Okay. Got it.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like, what do you do when like the cash flow isn't cash flowing? Like, mind you, like, we bought the properties in like very rough areas. So I remember there was somebody whose wages we were garnishing for one of the properties, like, that we didn't start getting paid on it for like, I think 7 or 8 years after we started the garnishment process. Yeah. So I just like to make sure people are aware of that. Like, I truly believe you need a lot of cash there, or you need a lot of access to cash if you're going to manage that. But so that's my story, right? So all of that happened, and I had a problem in my late teens, like heading into college. I said, yo, like, I don't understand. I don't understand why I went from having one pair of shoes to finally having a designer bag and matching shoes to having literally nothing again. I was like, this doesn't make sense to me. And my mom couldn't explain it. She was like, something about the economy and like it's like a mutual fund. And I was like, yeah, this is a problem. So I explain it as like a very A to Z, like, oh, I recognized that there was a problem, and then I became a certified financial planner. But like that whole journey in the middle was like a blender of just crazy things, right? Like a lot happened. And so I just realized like in that moment, I can very vividly remember that conversation with my mom when I was, I believe, 17 years old. And I was like, yo, what happened? And we're standing like in the hallway of her house that she ended up foreclosing on a couple years later. We were standing there and I was like, yo, I don't get it. And she was like, she tried to kind of like fumble her way through. And I was like, yeah, that answer doesn't work for me. So like, I basically was like, okay, I'm going to go on this journey to figuring out, how does money work? Why do rich people have money? Why are people like born into the situations they are? And so I just launched down this whole path. But it's like, I wish I could say that I found the answers, you know, immediately. YouTube wasn't as strong as it is now. So
people don't understand that point too. It's like when you're looking for info now, it's you could just go to it.
You know how to do it.
Back then it was like you're literally just
you
maybe
really
asking people and
exactly, you're really just trying to piece things together, right? So that's why I try to produce like as much content as I do, because at a certain point, like you just want to make impact for other people, and you're like, I just want you to have your questions answered. Like,
you try to be what you were looking for.
Exactly. Exactly. Because it's like, you're like, dang, you know, if I had such and such person at such and such time, I would be, you know, not where I am now, right? Like I would be ahead of where I am now.
Exactly.
So, you know, with that, I ended up switching my major in college because it was a really rough, like, process.
What was your original major?
I was gonna say, I actually went to school and I was going for dentistry. So when I was little, so this kind of gets into like the story of my race, because I know some people look at this, they'll be like, what is she? I get that comment a lot. So my mom is white. She's Dutch and Irish. And then my biological father, I don't know him. So I'm actually getting ready to post a series of videos of me like on my journey to finding him right now. So I'm in the middle of that. I don't know him. Allegedly he's Black and Puerto Rican. So, but like I said, like I have no idea, zero ties, don't know his name, don't know anything about him. Like, so figuring that out. But in this journey, like I was like, okay, you know, I don't see anybody who really looks like me doing what I'm doing. Like there wasn't a blueprint for anybody that I was like, oh wow, like I would want to do what this person is doing. I just didn't see that. And so I was like, okay, I'm just gonna have to like become this person. That's it.
Right. No, that's a great point. Like growing up, I'm trying to think of like different little inspirational things in media, but the only thing I can think of is the character that Eddie Murphy played in Trading Places. Like that's like the only thing like in finance as a kid, a movie that I watched a lot that was kind of in it, but not really close. So yeah, not having those you know, really role models in either media or real life makes it hard.
Right. In real life. So the crazy thing was like my role model, going back to your question of what I wanted to do, my role model was when I was a child, I was given this Barbie, and I honestly can't remember the Barbie's race, but it doesn't matter because I could remember her profession. She was a dentist. So literally like you grab the Barbie and you could like click her back and it would make like teeth brushing noises and like, oh, it's time to brush your teeth and all this stuff, right? And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. This is a dentist. Like I love that.
Right.
And shout out to Positivity Water, by the way. I'm sponsored by them. So
go ahead. Go
ahead and get you some Positivity Water. They're actually Black owned. They're based here in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, that's dope. That's dope. Okay.
So this Barbie, you press the back, it makes these noises, right? And it's a little dentist. And I was like, this is dope. Like, that's what I want to do. So literally from like the age of like, I probably got that around like 4, 5, 6, all the way up until high school, I was still talking about being a dentist. But because I was an athlete, I was never pushed academically because they're always like, oh, you're an athlete. Like if your grades are bad, that's okay. And mind y'all, I had like a B average. I was like a 3.5 student. But they still were like, yeah, you could be a 4.0, but because you're an athlete, we're going to give you that break, right? So I had a counselor. This is the problem. And this is why I tell people, you cannot listen to other people. Other people do not know what you're supposed to do and where you're supposed to go. Only you know that. And I don't know about your spiritual background, but that's a conversation for you and God. Like, you need to listen up because he's telling you something. Yeah. Because what happened was at 16, 17 years old, I had a counselor who literally, let me give y'all a quick backstory. When I was 15, I was going to drop out of high school because we moved to Georgia and some of my classmates were dropping out at 15 years old because in Georgia, apparently you can sign your own paperwork and drop out at 15 years old. I was like, oh, this is wild. I said, you mean I don't have to go to school? Oh, sign me up. So I had a classmate who literally dropped out like one day. It was in the class. I was like, yo, I was like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm signing my paperwork so that I can get the hell out of here. And I was like, okay, cool. So like, how does that work? He was like, I just signed this paperwork and said I'm dropping out. And I was like, yeah. I was like, so then I went home and I was thinking about, I said, yo, I'm about to drop out. Like, I'm out of here. And then I just thought about it. Like, I remember sitting in my bed that night and I was like, wait, what am I going to do with my life if I drop out right now?
Right. What's the next step?
Because in Georgia, like we also have these labor laws. Like most states have child labor laws, but in Georgia specifically, they're like, oh, you can only work, I think, like 15 or 20 hours until you're 17. And then when you're 17, you can start working full time. So it's like, that means for 2 years, I would have to like find a job and I would only be able to work 15 hours a week. I was like, this math isn't mathing. So I was like, let me just stay here. So I stayed in school, right? So then I had a counselor who was like, she knew, like she could tell like that I was going through something, but didn't really know because mind y'all, what people see is me, honestly, me with my white mom in her Mercedes Benz who lives in a decent house dropping me off at school.
Gotcha. Yeah.
That's what people see. They don't see everything that's going on behind the scenes. The fact that my mom is losing everything. She really can't afford that house. It's a lot going on and all of the like emotional damage behind that. So when my mom had my brother, it was just me, her, and him. And mind you, I was like 14, 15 years old and my mom got really sick. So she couldn't do anything for like a year, almost 2 years. So I was taking care of my brother. So nobody is seeing all of this pressure and stuff behind the scenes. So this counselor says, I'm giving y'all the long story.
Go ahead.
I think it's helpful. I think it can be really helpful for somebody. Yeah. So I have a counselor who is like, hey, you if you go to college, they will pay you to go to school. I said, huh? What are you talking about? Like, I knew nothing about college. Mind you, like my mom went to school and when I was little, sometimes I would go to school with her and I would sit in class with her when like she didn't have a sitter for me and she needed to go to school. So I was like, I don't even really get the whole college thing. And so she was like, they will literally pay you to go to school. And so I was like, what do you mean? Basically saying like I would qualify for Pell. And I did. Okay. Right. So she was like, what do you want to do? And I was like, dentist. Duh.
Right. Of course. Right. Of course, the thing that I wanted to do since I was a little kid. Yeah.
Let's do it. So I'm thinking like I'm going to go to school and become a dentist. And because I had a classmate, I had a teammate, she sat on my basketball team and she was poised to become an anesthesiologist. So I was like, she's going into the medical field. That means I can go into the medical field too. Right. So I start in school and the place I get the basketball scholarship to, like, they don't have like a dental track. Like there is no dental program, right? Okay. So there's nothing to set you up. So I have this conversation with the counselor and she was like, instead of becoming a dentist, you should become a dental hygienist. And I was like, And I'm looking at these numbers that we had on the board and I was like, So I was like, a dental hygienist makes about like 60 grand at this time. And I was like, an orthodontist makes like 120 on average. Right. And I was like, so you're telling me to shoot for this because it's easier? And at that age, like that's what I ended up doing because I was like, well, I don't really know what to do in this case, right? Like a counselor is supposed to be there to guide you, right? And like to do what's in your best interest. So mind you, I have a full ride basketball scholarship poised for 4 years at a large university. Why are you telling me to reach for something that I'm not gonna say is like beneath me, but do you see what I'm saying? Like it's
Right,
like
yeah. She didn't really broaden your options. She really kind of scaled it down in a sense.
She really was trying to teach me to sit small.
Right. Yeah.
And I didn't have enough confidence or assertiveness to be able to break through that and say, nah, sis, like, why are you trying to tell me to like go to a technical college when I have because you have to go to a technical college to get a dental hygiene. You can get like an associate's and then do like 2 years of additional training. So you would have an associate's in that certification to be a hygienist.
So you wouldn't even be able to do that with the scholarship that you had.
No, like I would have had to drop from this, D1 school and go to like a JUCO, which would have been working backwards, right? But that's what she told me to do. And so because I was pretty well set on the school I was going to, I was like, well, I can't go back on that now, so I just got to go to this school. So I just studied biology.
Okay. Just stay within the right. Okay.
You get good grades and you apply for like medical school. So that was the plan.
Okay.
But I was like, I got in there and I was like, all right. So I started following this track and it just wasn't working for me. Like I took the ACT when I was like 17, like a senior, just because I needed it to get to college.
Right.
And I got like a 21 on the ACT, which was way better than any of the other athletes.
Oh, listen, trust me.
Enough to get in.
I got friends who had to take it over and over and over again, and they thanked baby Jesus when they got a 17.
Yeah.
Like they was just like, like me. For some reason, I'm pretty good at standardized tests. So I took it one time and got a 25. But that's just because I'm really good at regurgitating information.
But the crazy thing is like you scored 4 points higher than me. That's still not even enough really for medical school. Like they want to see a 28.
Oh, okay.
Wow. They want to see like a 26 on the low end, 28. So I took the ACT 2 other times when I was in college and I just couldn't get higher than the 21. I got a 21 every time. I said, okay, well, I'm just a 21. So what can I do with a 21? But that really, it wasn't even that abrupt, right? Like it was more so my sophomore year. I said, well, I'm not getting the scores that I need to be able to get into the program. And I'm not about to waste my time, because it was funny at the time. My aunt, she had a fitness trainer, and this trainer was like 35 years old, and he had been applying for dental school for like 12 years, 13 years. He had been just applying. I said, yo, that's not gonna be me.
Right.
I said, that's not, more power to you. I love the tenacity. Right. However, like when the world tells me to pivot, like when the facts change, so do I. So these facts are saying, hey sis, that ain't for you.
That's a great point.
That's not for you.
That's such a great point. I watched a documentary on law students going for the bar, and you can easily find this on YouTube. It's called A Lawyer Walks into a Bar. And there's this one guy who failed the bar exam I want to say, I maybe I'm saying a high number, but I'm pretty close, like over 25 times. And I think he never passed. The man, he attempted over and over and over and over and over again. I don't think, because I researched it and tried to see, okay, because it came out like a 2009, and I tried to see, okay, what happened to all these people. I don't think he ever passed the bar exam, ever.
Can y'all let me know how many times you can take that? Because you can only take the certified financial planner exam five times.
I think it's unlimited. And he was in California. The California bar is notoriously supposed to be harder than other states.
Yeah, I live there. It's a huge state.
Right. And I don't think he ever passed. And I know he failed like over 20 times.
I would have been like, bro, you need to go take that in Nevada.
Something. It's ridiculous.
But the crazy thing, like that's crazy, but also the other crazy thing is, at least in Georgia, the Georgia bar has a better pass rate than the certified financial planner exam. I was like, lawyers want to be like, I'm a lawyer. And I'm like, well, the bar is easier to pass than the CFP. So.
Oh, yeah. See, I used to be somewhat intimidated by like lawyers and doctors because they go to school a little bit longer than us, right? But then when they actually sit down and they, give you the financial information stuff, you'd be like, yeah, you're good at what you do. You're not good at what I do. So just relax and let me help you.
Stay in your lane, respectfully.
Right.
Okay. That's all I'm saying.
All right. So I took you off your point. So obviously you met this guy. He was a trainer. He was trying for years to get into dental school, and
Look,
you saw that and was like, I'm not going down that road.
I didn't even have to meet him. I just heard the story. I was like, oh, nah, that ain't it. I was like, that's not going to be it. So that's when I made that pivot. So it's interesting. And there's something very interesting about the human brain. So the human brain is the only organ in your body that doesn't have a disposal system. Did y'all know that?
No, I didn't.
It doesn't. Everything else in your body will release. Like your skin,
find a way to get rid of waste.
Your skin is an organ, like you shed, like all of that. Your brain doesn't do that. So what does that mean? That means when your brain is expanded, it can't go back to its original size. So when I was like 16, 17, and I was working literally like 3 jobs, I had a half day at school, right? My senior year.
You were working that many jobs while in high school, while also being an athlete?
Yeah.
I couldn't do it.
What's funny is at 19 or so, I went back to my high school, right? And I went to go watch a basketball game and saw my coach and was having a conversation with somebody, and my coach was there, and I was explaining how I was working these 3 jobs, and he was like, that's why I couldn't get you to be consistent on the basketball court. He's like, I didn't know. Yeah, he was like, I didn't know all of this was going on behind the scenes. Like, we knew you had a job because you left school early, but we didn't know that you literally, I was working at a boutique, I was working at Little Caesars, and I was working at a catering job. So y'all, it was crazy because I would leave school at like 11, have to be at my job at the boutique at like 12. I would work there from like 12 to 4. And from then I would drive back to school to go to practice. And then after practice, I would go work at Little Caesars. And then I would work Little Caesars and catering on the weekend.
And you were still able to get a D1 scholarship.
And I was still able to get
that's an amazing story. That's an amazing story.
I think we were D2 at the time.
I wasn't like, my parents I would just need like little spending money, right? Like not like big money. Like I wasn't helping out the household in any way, shape, or form. I just kind of wanted some spending money, and my mother was like, "No, you got to focus on school and sports. Like you don't have the time to do this." And she was like, "No, if you just need money, just ask me." Right? Just ask me for the money, because there's no way that you're going to continue to get good grades in school and do sports the way that you want. So for you to do that, and let me tell you, people, she achieved a much higher level of sports than I did. Right? I went to an NAIA school. She's like D1, D2, and she was doing 3 jobs and getting a 3.5 average. That's
it's sometimes I look back like, yo, what were you doing? Like, what were you doing? And the only thing that I can speak to is, sometimes things get tough and you just work through it. But there was an article that went viral on me on Market Watch, and the title was, shout out to Marty, the title was, I promised myself I would never be broke again. Financial advisor's family loses $1.4 million. And it was very clickbait, because I guess I didn't read the comments, but I guess a lot of comments was like, how did a financial advisor lose all this money? Right. So it's that first line though. I promised myself I would never be broke again.
That was the motivation.
Literally at 17 years old, I was like, yeah, never again. Like, never again will you catch me in a position where I'm saying like, oh, I can't have this and I can't do that. And I only have 1 pair of shoes. I was like, that would never happen to me again. But there was a healthy balance. So I've seen it go like way far left for people where they're like, yeah, I didn't have a whole lot growing up. So now like I just buy anything and everything. And I'm like, that ain't it either. Because that's still not giving me what I truly want, which is options, opportunity, freedom, flexibility. That's not giving me that. So back to the point of like, when your mind is expanded, it doesn't go back to its original size. When I had that catering job, I got that job because there was a woman named Jenny. She came to our basketball practice one time, and she was like a businesswoman, right? Like all I could think of is like a businesswoman. Like it's the first businesswoman I had seen where they called her that. And I was like, oh, dope. She pulled up in her little BMW, fresh, like hops out, kind of got on like a little suit professional type of thing. And I was like, she don't look like the teachers. I was like, what's going on here? So I like gravitated towards this woman. So, after she talks to us, I make sure I talk to her and was like, yo, like, what do you do? Like, And that's when I get my catering job, because she was like, oh, you need a little extra work. This job pays good money. It's like, mind you, it's $12 an hour. Minimum wage is $7.25.
Yeah.
I think I made $7.25 at Little Caesars. Like, and I think I made like $8 or $9 at the boutique. So she told me this job pays like $12 an hour. I said, count me in, whatever it is, I'm doing it. So this is when I land this catering job. Now, as I land this catering job, because she worked for like basically a large conglomerate in Chattanooga. And so part of that conglomerate had like a catering wing for all of these event spaces that they owned. And so we would provide the food for it. So she would occasionally check up on us when we're like prepping or delivering food or whatever we're doing, servicing guests. And so she would have these little conversations with me about like, this is where your life can go. These are ideas for you. These are opportunities for you. And basically she was selling me on the dream of like, you just need to get a bachelor's degree. Because she told me this, like, I didn't know this, and it expanded my mind. She was like, you could make $80,000 a year working for the FBI if you just have a bachelor's degree. $80,000 a year sounded like a lot to me, considering I knew that a hygienist only made 60.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is interesting. So mind you, like, I'm piecing all these things together, but that's when my mind had been expanded to business. So then you fast forward to a few years later when I'm in college and I'm like, yo, dental ain't working. Like that ain't it. So I said, whatever I do moving forward has to have the potential to make me $60,000 a year. If it has the potential to make me at least $60,000 a year, then I think I could sit in there comfortably, right?
Okay.
And so mind you, like, I'm a child, so I'm thinking 60 bands, like that's a lot of money. So I'm like, well, I'm going to transition over to business. So I switched my major to like marketing, and then it's kind of what I'm figuring out. Like I take my first marketing class and I was like, yo, this is way too simple and it's whack. Like, so this isn't helping anybody.
Okay.
Right. So I was like, I need more of a challenge. So then I ended up switching my major to finance. Okay. And there was one summer that I took 21 credit hours because I promised myself I was going to graduate on time. So I ended up taking like 156 credit hours in 4 years, which you only need 123 to graduate.
To graduate, right? Unless you're sitting for like the CPA exam or something, then
yeah, exactly. And I graduated with honors, so I graduated cum laude. So
wow,
it was a lot, and I don't talk about this story often, so it seems like
we got exclusive. We got exclusive here. I like it.
I don't share these details, but that's exactly what happened. And so when I got to the pivotal point for me getting into financial planning profession was me actually Googling when I was in college, was Googling like, yo, who's this person who knows about all of these things? Because mind you, I've still been confused all these years and haven't been able to get answers to my questions. So I'm still piecing it together. And so I Google and I just come across the certified financial planner designation. I was like, yo, this is a person who knows about investments. And then, like, mind you, I never had that might have been why I was so fascinated by dentistry, because I never had dental insurance or health insurance growing up. Like,
gotcha. Okay. Yeah.
It wasn't something that we did, right? I was very blessed to be healthy. And so I was like, who's this person who knows about all of these things, right? Like, who knows about estate planning? Because mind you, my mom inherited 1.4. She lost 1.5.
Whew.
She owed a 6-figure tax bill nobody told her about.
Oh no. Right. Yeah.
So the first day of my intro to finance class, right? Like this is just God helping me to walk in my purpose. Because in this intro to finance class, this girl pipes up, and I wish I could remember her name and could be in contact with her because she was amazing, because I was super, super shy and reserved. So this girl pipes up right before like the professor walks in, and she says, hey, if anybody is trying to be a financial advisor or planner, the Financial Planning Association is having a speed networking hiring thing today, like 20 minutes away. So if you want the information, just let me know. I said, what? Literally the night before I had Googled and like came across like certified.
Right. You just found out about this thing, and it's like a sign from God. It's like, okay, here's an avenue for you to actually take action.
Exactly. So it was like, okay, get it together, sis. Like, you got somewhere to be tonight. And so I was able to like RSVP and I showed up. And that's where I secured my first internship, which turned into my first job, which turned into still like an 8-year mentorship relationship, even though I only worked there for 3 years. Somehow I convinced him to keep paying me after I left. You know, like it was the beginning of a beautiful thing, because I think at the end of the day, money is literally there to give you options and opportunities, right? And the lack of it keeps you from having those opportunities. And I didn't want to be in that position. And I was like, I will do whatever it takes to figure out how this money thing works, because I grew up always not having enough. And I was like, I don't think this is how this is supposed to be. So
great point.
That's kind of the story of how I got here.
Yeah, that's great. I love it. Because like I said, I watch a lot of interviews and different content, and I'm hearing things for the first time. So that's amazing. And I think we share in the concept of what financial planning or financial advising is. And what I got out of that is, you view it more as a service profession rather than a sales profession. Right. And I'm not even going to be nice about it. I don't think that anyone with a mindset of selling products is truly a financial planner. Like, you should get into being a financial planner the same reason why doctors do what they do, why lawyers do what they do, to serve the client, to be able to provide service to them, regardless to what the solution is, because the solution is going to be based on their particular set of needs and goals. But you shouldn't be a person with a product looking for someone to sell it to. You should be a real person that's trying to service, regardless of what product that they need to accomplish that goal.
Absolutely. I think it's unfortunate some of the things that happen in our industry. So the first finance class that I went to, that was like my high level finance courses, I walk in and the professor, he comes into the class, everybody's kind of settled. He walks into the class, and he says, finance is inherently confusing. And he says, because the more confusing we make it, the more money we can make off of you. That was the first thing that he said. So I said, bet. As soon as he said that, I said, bet. This is going to be simple. And that corporate finance class kicked my butt. It did. But I was like, okay, this finance money thing, I was like, okay, I can get it, because now I know that you're literally just trying to confuse me intentionally. Because going back to the sales point, if you want to be a salesman, there's plenty of other things you could sell that I think are probably way more lucrative. But my point is, like, a lot of salespeople know, because I made it my duty to work in all of these different spaces to see how the entire industry worked, not just fee-only certified financial planner, RIA space. Like, no, I wanted to work in every space to see how it was truly operating at its core. And when I worked in like the life insurance sales, they know, like, they were like, yeah, people don't understand this. So if they don't understand it, we can make more money because we can sell these certain things. All we have to do is make sure that it's suitable for them. It's suitable. You sell it, you get paid, blah, blah, blah. And I remember my first day of training, I was going to stick it out. But this lady, and I didn't fully comprehend this at 20 years old, but she was like, so we're scamming people, basically. And she left the training like a grown 40, 50-year-old woman was like, yeah, I'm not doing this. And so, like, I didn't really understand exactly what she was saying, but I was like, something is wrong here. I was like, I don't know exactly what's going on, but let me figure it out. Right. So I'm 20 years old trying to sell Medicare supplements to 65-year-olds. That ain't it, sis. People said you up for failure. People saying you up for failure. Okay. But yeah, I think it's a major flaw in our industry. So I know we're kind of getting close to time, and I want to explain, we touched on it earlier, like you want to become the person that you needed.
Yes.
And that is a specific trait of some different personality types, but specifically an advocate. So if you guys haven't taken the Myers-Briggs personality test, I really encourage you to do so, just because it's really fun, honestly, to be able to articulate like who you are as a person, your personality, why you do the things that you do. And so I know for me, like, I'm what's considered INFJ, and I'm considered to be an advocate, which makes complete sense to me because I have always advocated harder for other people than I do for myself. Right? Like you're like, yo, I could see you doing X, Y, and Z, but then they're like, what about you? And you're like, no, not me. I can't do it too.
Right.
You could do it, right? So I know I naturally have this personality that's like, yo, I really want people to get whatever is best for them. Like I want people to have clarity and not be super confused, because I spent years confused about money and the fact that we don't talk about my mom lost $1.4 million. What do you think that did to this?
Yeah.
People just, they're like, oh, you know, the money's the money. Like, it's not that separate from your emotions, right? Like, if you guys watch Donut King, I think it's on Hulu. I love documentaries, and I just, especially when everything was shut down, I just watch all the documentaries on like Netflix, Hulu, everything. And Donut King, it's the story of like how donut shops got to be a thing, and this guy built this huge donut empire, and he gambled all his money away because he was emotionally caught up in obviously the adrenaline rush, everything that comes with gambling. And he literally lost everything for his family, like foreclosed on a house, like all of it. So they talk about like the emotional journey of the family. And I haven't written that story yet because I feel like it's still kind of being written. But I did write Money Planning and Positivity in 2020 because I was like, yo, y'all got to listen about like why money doesn't end up being everything, because I finally got financially stable and I didn't feel secure still. And I was like, wait, there's a problem here. Like, what's the disconnect?
Right.
And, you know, it took me some time to figure that out. And so I wanted to write some of that stuff in the book. But in addition to that, I have a lot of people who reach out to me for mentorship. So I recently decided to launch what I'm calling my Digital Advisor Success Accelerator.
Nice. Okay.
And this is to help certified financial planners, people who are in the industry who have a baseline personal finance knowledge. It is to help them grow their business digitally. You know, there's something that I did that most people don't do that I'm not supposed to do because there's a lot of red tape in our industry, but I used to consult. I consulted for over I think I'm at 18 firms now in my career.
Wow. Okay.
And consulted in like different capacities of either like social media management or operations or financial planning. And I did that intentionally because I wanted to learn like what's really going on out here.
Right.
And in addition to that, I needed to get paid.
Right.
Because when I came out and I was making like maybe $40,000 a year, I was like, yo, this is not what I signed up for.
Right.
I signed up for, I Googled it. It said $120,000 a year. That's what I signed up for. I didn't sign up for this. So I was like, how am I going to bridge this gap? So then I went down this journey of like doing a bunch of things to bridge the gap. But one of the main things I was doing was consulting. And I was like, okay, I want to figure out how this industry works, how to become like the best in it. How do I do that? And even from that, like it just, people were just watching me like on social media and it was just catching on, like, and people ask for mentorship all the time. And there's something that really, and I'm gonna share this with y'all, and it's gonna get me blackballed. So just keep it between us, okay? There's something that really pushed me to launch this accelerator, and the launch date is gonna be mid-March, but I have a wait list right now. I'll drop it for you guys.
Perfect.
But I picked up speaking. So I learned early with that first job, because I used to write like the invoices and stuff for my boss, and he was a spokesperson for AARP. AARP would pay him $2,500 for one presentation for 1 hour, and they would pay for all of his travel fees. And mind you, like I'm still a broke college student. I'm like, yo, they're paying you $2,500 for an hour? I Googled this. Like I'm only making like maybe $200 an hour on a good career. Like, what is this? I said, I need that. So I started speaking and like making money from speaking. And so I just started trying to find all these different avenues. Like, how could I have 7 streams of income from being a financial planner specifically? And, you know, I decided that in this last year, I was like, how can I get on like the biggest financial planner platform so everybody can hear me? Everybody can hear about my accelerator and you guys could just know who I am, right? So Are you part of the Financial Planning Association?
Yes.
Okay. So like what's the biggest Financial Planning Association conference?
It's the retreat, right?
Yeah, so you have like the retreat.
Uh-huh.
Aside from those like major ones, you have like the retreat and then you have the annual conference.
Mm-hmm.
So retreat is a lot of fun because it's it is more like laid back. So there's more like downtime and those kinds of like rejuvenation type of things, where the conference is like a literal conference. But aside from that, especially pre-COVID, FPA NorCal, their conference was the biggest conference. Have you ever heard that?
No.
So they come together. It's like 3 Northern California chapters. They come together. They put on this really big conference. Everybody knows it's like a big deal, right? Like they don't pay their speakers to be there because that's how much clout they have. They just show up and they're like proud to be there. So I served on the board for the Financial Planning Association here in Georgia. So that's how I know.
Okay.
Because that was our competition. We're like, how do we get other
how we get to that level, right?
Other chapters to want to fly into our conference. So I end up getting connected with, because this is me, like if I want something, I'm figuring out how to get it. And so I get connected with the woman who's in charge of like the speakers, or is like the speaker committee chairperson, right? So we have this conversation, and basically she says, how do I say this? Keep this between us, y'all. She was like, well, this conference is for 50 and up white guys, so I don't think they want to hear what you're talking about. And I was like, So I have the over here on my other monitor, I have the like agenda pulled up. And so I was like, so you're saying they don't want to hear about digital marketing? She was like, yeah, no. I said,
like, no.
Okay, this is post pandemic, so I'm pretty sure everybody is doing everything digitally, but all right. So I have the agenda pulled up, remember? And so I say, so what about I don't want to throw her into the fire, but what about Carolyn? Like Carolyn is speaking on like LinkedIn strategies. I said, so do you want me to dial in my title and speak more specifically on like LinkedIn or something? Because it's not that they don't want digital marketing, because clearly LinkedIn is going
is right, is what it is, right?
That they don't want what I have. So well, this is a conference for 50 and up white guys. I don't think they're gonna want to hear what you have to say. So it's not they don't want to hear what I have to say, it's they don't want to hear from me.
Hear it from you.
And that's what I said, because it was like, I wish I'd recorded the call. And she was like, yeah, no, we had another young millennial guy in there before and he just wasn't well received. And I was like, yeah, to be honest, I'm not doing this like to really care about how y'all receive me. Like, I'm just trying to check a box on my resume. That's all I'm trying to do. Like, I don't care. But they turned me down for that reason. They were like, yeah, it's for 50 and up white guys. So basically, like, we talk about the good old boys club, and I was like, yeah, this is exactly like why like I need to launch this, because everybody needs to go where they are celebrated and not tolerated. And I told myself when I quit my W-2 position, I was like, I'm not gonna go anywhere where I'm just tolerated and where I'm just checking off a diversity box for you. Like, that's not gonna happen. And I was like, I will find other ways to make money, even if that includes me not being included in the financial planning industry. Because the reality is, do you agree that financial planning is a relationship business?
Absolutely.
Okay, so if it's a relationship business and we're in the business of money and relationships, who has the money in America?
Right. I mean, obviously, the majority community is going to have way more wealth than the minority communities that we actually come from.
10 times.
Yeah.
10 times more wealth. So if they have 10 times more wealth, and this is a relationship business,
right?
Who exactly are we servicing? Who exactly are we working for? Right? And I was like, yeah, I'm just not going to sit in that space anymore where I've got to explain why all lives matter, like why Black Lives Matter.
Right. Yeah.
Why reparations are necessary. Like, I was like, I'm not having these conversations anymore. It's emotionally draining. I I want to be somewhere where I'm celebrated. So if that means entrepreneurship, like if that means that entrepreneurship is going to get me to be my authentic self, because, you know, when you work in any corporate environment, like except for maybe Google, you don't get to be your true self.
Right.
I haven't heard of anybody who works in the finance industry who just gets to freely be themselves. And like, maybe it's a West Coast thing and I don't live over there anymore and you can just wear a t-shirt and your long hair. But like, that's not a thing as far as I'm concerned. And I said,
Right.
okay, I don't belong in the industry in the traditional terms.
Nah,
and the only reason why I wanted to be on that NorCal platform is because I wanted more people to see what I'm offering, because I have this that happens a lot, right? Like you go to a networking event or something like that and somebody else is a financial planner or advisor there. I've had this so many times where like I will speak up first, especially in a situation of like, hey, somebody say who they are, right? I'll speak up. I don't care. So I'll pipe up, certified financial planner. This is what I do, blah, blah, blah. Like, because they're asking you to introduce yourself.
Right.
I've had a lot of people who piggyback and they'll be like, oh, I do what she does. And I'm just like, do you though? Because you're not a CFP. You're not an entrepreneur. You don't do comprehensive financial planning. You work at Primerica. You work at New York Life.
See, I thought I was the only person who does that. Like, it kills me when I hear that. It's like, yeah, I do what you do. I'd be like, nah, not quite, son. Like that. It's like, nah, that's not. We don't do the same.
You don't. But look, that's okay because I can teach you how to do what I do. Because I know chances are that if you look like me and you work in that space, you don't make any money.
Yeah.
Because of what I said earlier, relationships. It's a relationship business. Yeah. And who has the money for you to have the relationships with? Not the people who look like you. Right. So chances are you're not really making any money doing that. But I can teach you how to get to the bag. I can teach you how to at least start making six figures, if not multiple six figures in your business very quickly. Nice. And that's why I'm launching this, really, because it really was like it was just a wake-up call for me to be like, yeah, I'm trying to go somewhere where I'm not even tolerated. Y'all don't even want me here.
No, that's a great point. That's a great point. Well, as we wrap this up, there's a couple of questions that I want to touch on. I know everybody wants to know, okay, what was your experience like studying for the exam? I mean, that's the biggest hurdle. I mean, I know a lot of people that can get through the educational piece of it, you know, even get through the experience piece of it, the ethics, they can check that box. The exam is the thing that stops people in their tracks and say, I don't know if I can do this. You were successful in it. What was your experience in studying and what was your experience in actually taking the exam?
Well, guys, it was brutal. It was absolutely brutal. I didn't have a social life, but again, like I think that the promises that you make to yourself are more important than the promises you'll ever make in life. And so I promised myself that I was going to pass that exam on the first try. I wasn't going to be the horror story of, and no offense to y'all that took it more than once. I love y'all. I love your tenacity. I just was like, yo, that's not going to be me. So whatever I have to do to pass on this first try, I'm doing it. So I bought all the flashcards. I did all of the things. And so I studied like crazy. Like literally my schedule was, I was still kind of like hooked on being an athlete. I mean, I still work out really early, but I was getting up at like 4:50, 5 a.m. I would go to the gym to avoid Atlanta traffic. Right. That way I would have time in the morning to just like, you know, work out, do my thing, get ready for the day, kind of study a little bit. And then I would go to work and I would work a full day. And then I would come home from work and I would like walk the dog. And then I would go back to studying again. Like it took me 14 months to get my CFP because I didn't have a financial planning degree. So if you don't have a financial planning degree, then you have to go take all of the CFP coursework and then sit for the exam. So that took me 14 months to do.
Yeah. And that's gonna be most people because there's not a lot of universities that have financial planning as a bachelor's degree, right? There's a lot of people who are going to get their bachelor's degree, be it in finance, even if there are like on that traditional track, it could be in finance or accounting or something. They're still going to go then get their certificate in financial planning. Now, would you like to share with us what review course you took, or did you take a review course?
Yeah. So for me, like, I don't think that 14 months is average. From everything else that I listened to, and like even from people who graduated with me who were like on the same track as me, like that wasn't average. One friend is still trying to get it now. This is 7-8 years later.
Wow. Well, yeah. I've heard those stories too. Yeah.
It just couldn't be me. Like it's a traumatic thing, right? It's trauma. Like I just came from such a rough situation. I said, yo, whatever I got to do to never be there again. So I did take a review course, and this is where I'm piecing together more of the, like, I don't think 14 months is really average. I think it's really fast. Because when I was sitting in that review course, I took Kenzan, and Kenzan, it was I don't know if I don't think he still does classes. He was I don't want to say on his last leg, but it was like he was like 83 teaching my class, and he was like, yeah, he said, God giveth and he taketh away, right? Like, so he was like, I have perfect, like he had almost 20/20 vision at like 80 years old, but he was like almost deaf. So yeah, he was teaching us this class, and in the class, like, you know, I was just listening to my other like classmates, and like some of them had been studying for that for years, and like they had not passed multiple times, and so they're here for another review course. But I did literally all of the things, so which people who didn't pass, who were in that same kind of similar cohort,
yes, that's what I was waiting to hear.
Yeah, they didn't pass because they didn't do all the things. So I did all the things I told you about, like my study schedule. It wasn't a whole lot before work for like the first 8-9 months, but then like as I got 3 months out from like actually taking the exam, that's when I was studying like 2-3 times a day. I also purchased the flashcards that you could listen to like on your phone. So I would hook them up in the car when I would be in the car, because I had travel time to work was at least an hour, if not 2. So all that time I spent in the car, like I didn't listen to music. I knew nothing that was trending. I barely, like, I almost gave up because I was like, yo, I can't keep up with like the news and what's going on because I'm just studying for this exam. Right. And I wish that somebody had more so said like, yo, like you're laying the foundation. Right. And this is why I'm launching my accelerator, because you need people to tell you this kind of stuff. Like I have people who have come to me as mentees who are women who are like 65 years old and they're making a career transition. Right. And somebody needs to tell you, like, you're still laying the foundation. Right. So as you're getting caught up in that phase of like trying to study for this very strenuous exam, remember, like, you're just laying the foundation and you have to build upon the foundation. Right. And I was going to give up because I was comparing myself to my boss who had been doing this for like 20 years. So anytime you ask him a question, he knows the answer.
Yeah. You know
I
what?
was like, how do you know this?
That's such a great point. What I would do sometimes is I had the article to think like a CFP on my phone. Like I just copied it and pasted it in my notes. And sometimes I would tell, my iPhones, like just read this to me while I'm in the car. Because what Richard Wagner is saying, and to think like a CFP, is the mindset that you have to have. And the time that you spend studying helps develop that foundation that you're talking about, building a mindset of you are actually becoming a certified financial planner. This is what he refers to it as. This is like one of those calling professions. It's something that really is not something that you're just, I'm going to try this out. It's a calling to help people in their finance, in their money management issues. But one of the greatest thing, people, if you listen, she actually did the things that the review course said to do. She wasn't doing shortcuts. All of us who had to take the exam more than once, let me explain the difference between a person like you who took it once and a person that had to take it more than once. We took shortcuts. If it said study on these days, these 5 days, we studied on 3 of those days. Or if it said, you need to do these many multiple choice questions, we did maybe about 30, maybe 40% of them. It wasn't until we just said, forget it, I'm actually going to do what the review course says to do. That's when we became successful. Just do this. I mean, trust me, the people who make these review courses, they kind of know what they're doing. They have a system in place. They even give you the ability to create your schedule on the days and everything. if you do what it says to do and actually do it and not try to just skim through it, you're going to be successful.
And you want to know why that is? It's because whoever's listening to this, you are doing 100% of everything that you can do right now as the person that you are. And that's where the hiccup is because we always tell people, oh, it's not the money of becoming a millionaire, it's the journey, right? And it's like, well, what the hell does that mean?
Right.
It means that you are operating at 100% of your capacity as a human being right now. And in order for you to reach your full potential, in order for you to pass that exam, in order for you to become that next person, you literally have to transform who you are.
Right.
And you can only do that through personal development and committing to a process such as you need to study 5 days a week, and studying 5 days a week is going to help you grow and expand into that next level of a person. Yes. Right. I tell this to people all of the time. You have to do things that are fearful for you. So if you have been watching me on social media recently, you'll notice that I've taken a lot of 48-hour trips. Like I did Tampa, Philly, DC, LA, like all recently within like the last month or so. And the reason why I've been doing that is because that's helping me expand to get to the next level of this next person that I'm supposed to be becoming. Because for me, that's been a drawback, a setback. Like, I don't want to get too deep into the emotions of it, but that's been a fear for me. So I'm like, okay, how can I combat this fear? Because you have to go at your fears head on in order for you to reach that next level of a person that you're supposed to be. And we have this poor misconception that this personal growth really is supposed to stop like when you get out of school or whatever. But it's like, in my opinion, that's when it really starts, because when you're in school, you're able to operate like this with your head down, because you're like, oh, put my head down. Right. Yeah. Follow these steps. Cool. Take this class, pass this class, boom, boom, boom. And then you get out and you're like, damn, there's no blueprint for this. Right. What am I supposed to do? Work hard and then like, that ain't it. Yeah. That ain't it. Like, I don't want to wait. Like, I had clients who would literally come, because most of my career I served people 50 and up. They would come and they were like, yeah, we're finally going to take that trip of a lifetime. I said, huh? They're like, yeah, we've been wanting to go to Australia for 35 years. What? Yeah. 35 years? I can't wait that long. I got to figure out how to make that happen now. I don't believe in bucket lists. I don't believe in bucket lists. Don't bring that energy over here. Okay. Because this is just living life to the fullest. Like, and I had a health scare last year, so it even sunk in even more. It was like, you need to do these things that you want to do. Like, you need to be able to live life on your terms.
It's being intentional. It's taking a look at yourself and saying, okay, let me develop a plan where I can actually do these things sooner rather than later, in a responsible way, where I'm not just blowing my money and living my best life now, but then it end up broke again. But it's really saying, okay, I'm going to develop an effective plan that I can achieve these things because these are my goals. Yeah. And it's just at the end of the day, like, I had, I went through like a really abusive relationship. And in that relationship, he told me that I would never be able to make money and be happy at the same time. He was like, you got to choose one. And I was like, yeah, this was a real argument for us for like 2 months. I was like, I refuse to choose one. I was like, I'm not choosing money or be happy. Like, I'm going to have both. I said, I don't know how, but I'm going to figure that out. So like, I've really made that my personal mission to like get money and be happy at the same time. So I've just been on this process of trying to figure that out. And I really just want to give back to other people because, I figured it out. I've cracked the code. Like, and I want to teach y'all how people are online saying like, yo, I made $50,000 in a month, $100,000 in a month. Like, that's possible for you. And I can teach you how to do it. I haven't made $100,000 in a month, but I have made the like average salary for like a new advisor. Like, what a lot of people are making, like, I've made that in a month. And I want to teach other people how to do it. And it sounds crazy because your mind hasn't been expanded. Like, if you're like, oh, that sounds insane, it's because your mind hasn't been expanded yet. You haven't seen it. I saw this girl make $500,000 in a month. I said, what? How are you doing this? She gave me the exact blueprint. This was last week. She gave me the exact blueprint. You think I'm not about to run that play? You got to do it. You got to give it a shot. You got to try.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because if I fail, what does failure mean? What is failure? $250,000?
Right.
Right?
A worst case scenario, you're just gonna still be at where you're at now. you got to give it a shot.
Worst case scenario, like my bills are still going to be paid. So yeah, that's why I wanted to launch that. I mean, I do want to expand people's minds. I want to share with them the opportunities that are out here. The industry has a lot of red tape and it holds a lot of us back. And I just don't like to see other people in that position.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, thank you so much. I don't want to keep taking up all your time. It's supposed to be 30 minutes, and I stole another 30 minutes of your time. But I think your story is, it's inspiring, and it's something that people need to hear because, as you said, you know how hard it is studying for this exam. You need something to keep you motivated, to keep you going, to remember what your why is all about, and stay focused and say, I actually have to do this stuff. Because honestly, what the process is, that hard work of studying for the exam, that's you becoming a CFP. I mean, that's what it is. You're not a CFP yet. The reason why it's hard and why, it's like all this focus, that is the price that you're paying to actually become a CFP. And then when you get through it, there's still obviously there's more stuff to learn and continue education and growing, but you can stand on a firm foundation and say, I'm a certified financial planner. I know how to serve people and not sell to people.
Exactly. No, that's a major point. And it's just about, really figuring out what you want and just going for it. Just going at it like full-fledged, The last thing that I'll leave you guys with is in our industry, we don't talk a whole lot about investing in ourselves. And that's paramount, especially if you look like us. You have to invest in yourself, and you have to get used to investing in yourself with not only time, right? Committing to that process of that CFP or that continuing education, but also with money. We cling to money so much, especially as advisors, because we know what that money can do in the market. We get that. But the more tightly that you cling to this money, the harder it is for any new money to get in. It can't get in. So you have to be comfortable releasing it so that you can let other money come in, right? So like it wasn't until I paid $55,000 for a mastermind that I really realized what investing in myself was. Yo, I had never wired that much money for that kind of a thing before. Like
Something that's not something that's not tangible. Right. If you spent that money before, you probably got a house, you probably got a car, something that you can actually point to. But for a mastermind.
I spent more on that mastermind than on my college degree. I took out $6,000 of student loans during college.
Oh, well, you was a superstar athlete though.
I never paid them back, but it's okay. I still have those $6,000 of student loans, y'all. Now they're calling me like, hey, are you ready to start paying again? But listen, what had happened was I signed up for the income repayment plan.
Right.
When I got out of college, and it was $100. And this is between us, y'all. They never reassessed me. I said, $100? Bet. Keep taking that. And then guess what? The pandemic hit, and I still haven't paid on them for 2 years. There's no interest on it.
You can write a check right now and get rid of it. It's almost a principal point to you now.
It's a principle. I tell y'all not to worry about paying down your student loans, and this is why.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Make sure, please, email me all your contact information, everything, so I can make sure that I put it in the description of the video. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me, Jayson. Have a good day, everybody.
All right.